Hi there. I'm here in the Orange Nebula office at 11 in the evening or midnight or something stupid. And I waited around for everyone to go home because apparently I'm cool with sending this message to 20,000 people, but don't want my 5 close friends here while I record it. We are weird creatures, humans. I will let the 6 other people on the team figure out which one of them is not my close friend. Anyway, I'll lead with the lead here, which is to share with you that I will be getting open heart surgery in about a week on the 23rd, and will then be completely absent from everything for the next few months while I recover. This means I won't be present in any of our social spaces or on Discord or on Kickstarter or at any of this year's conventions, but I will be alive, so I'll take what I can get. In a moment, I will share more about my surgery and exactly what's going on. I know that there will be people who want to know details. And I'd like to spare the team here the task of trying to answer those questions. But before I scare you off with conversations about medical thingies, I want to hit you with a few other things. So, to be clear, if you aren't interested in me sharing things at you or with you, then you go ahead and jump off now. This is not a board game video, and it's all right if that's not for you. So, all right. First thing that I want to share is that it strikes me as, I don't know, profound, I guess, that I would be compelled to make this video at all. I have switched careers a few times in my life, and never would it have occurred to me to do this before. I'd have just vanished for a bit, and no one would have cared. I would have had to justify my absence to clients or whatever with some short, formal message, but that would have been it. And this video, in a way, is proof that this community, the Orange Nebula and Outpost communities, are different. Over the past few weeks, not only have a bunch of people pointed out, correctly I think, that you would want to hear from me, but I also found, to my surprise, that I wanted to share. And I don't want to be too melodramatic about this. I mean, it's open heart surgery. It isn't some small thing, but everyone watching this has their own harrowing thing that they're facing or have faced. We're all living lives, and lives are complicated, but this community has expressed a commitment to wanting to be about something more than just consuming pop culture entertainment together. And we spend so much of our lives engaged with our hobbies that a community built around hobbies is also, I think, by inference, a community about how we live our lives. And it's an amazing thing that we've all come together to have more thoughtful conversations about this intersection of hobby and life, and to want to connect in this way. And it's amazing that you're here. Truly, I'm grateful for you. Everyone here is grateful for you. The rest of the community is grateful for you. I wish that we could share the long messages that we receive from people expressing the impact that this community has on them. Hear me, please. Your attitude and positivity are affecting people. Even if it all seems small, it's not. And so first, let's acknowledge how wondrous it is that there's any reason for me to make this video at all. What you're building in the Outpost and Orange Nebula is special. All right, so my second thing or point is kind of like the first. It's this. People are amazing. So, bit of backstory on my heart saga. Years back, as part of my job, I was driving a big commercial truck. So, back in my big rig days, no, but yes. part of having a commercial driver's license is getting regular physicals. And I went in for my physical 1 year, and the woman who did it was filling in at that clinic. She was covering for someone. I have no idea where she came from, space maybe, but I know that she was not a regular part of that clinic. She was this wild Professor Trelawney mystical tea reader type with lots of wonderful, bizarre energy. She was kind of all over the place and one of the strangest, most unique people I've ever encountered. I loved her. You would have loved her. I think the whole world would love her. She was something else. Anyways, she was also the most meticulous physical giver of all time, and everything she did took forever. But then at the end, she announced with some type of cartoonish flair that made me not sure if she was joking or not, that she had heard a smidge of a heart murmur, which was weird because, I'd been to doctors plenty of times growing up, and then at that point I was getting the annual commercial license physical, and she was the first person to ever hear it. And I didn't know what to think of anything that was happening that day. Frankly, I didn't know if she was actually a real person, so the whole event was kind of like a dream, but she was at least kind of real because then she told the regular doctor at that clinic about it. Now, I don't know this doctor from, however this saying goes. I'd never met him before. This whole thing was just sort of a run-of-the-mill thing where we go through the motions for the license and they see that I'm healthier than the average truck driver and they just sign my form with little to no thought and away I go. But this guy, though, this doctor, he called me back in and he explained that he has no way of knowing whether the murmur mattered. I guess most of the time they don't. But he wanted to send me for some testing and connect me with a cardiologist just to be safe. Yada, yada, yada. I was now on a road that would eventually lead to some significant life changes. And now this surgery, all of which is adding up to saving my life. And I've told this story quite a few times now. And what people most often say is, wow, she must have been an angel. And which there's beauty and power in that thought. And I don't discount it for a second. But the thing that has been consistently blowing my family and I away is thinking about how these were just people doing their jobs, but they chose to do them well. They just woke up that morning and they went to work, and whatever else was going on in their life, they still did a good job and they cared. And it has changed my family's life forever. And that mystical, maybe imaginary lady was just filling in for someone else. It was an odd day for her in an unfamiliar system, and it would have been very easy to just be distracted and to just try to make it through the day, but she didn't do that. She dug in and she paid enough attention to do something other than just checking the boxes and getting the job done so she could go home. She didn't do that. The doctor was humble enough to say, I don't fully understand this situation, and then refer me to someone who could help. There was no ego there. There was no false confidence. There was no weird hiding or masking of insecurities. He just legitimately wanted to do a good job, and he prioritized that over anything else. And every cardiologist or surgeon or whomever that I have spoken with over the years have all been blown away that this doctor did anything. Apparently, there are meaningless murmurs all over the place, and most of the time doctors are perfectly happy to just chalk them up to, there are meaningless murmurs all over the place. But this guy didn't. And I think that we spend so much time being frustrated with the people around us, being frustrated with the culture, or lamenting some perceived collapse in the quality of humanity, that we start missing how amazing people can be. People can be incredible. Simply waking up and caring is amazing. People decide every day to bring something good into the world with their time and effort, and it's beautiful, and we should celebrate it, if nothing else for ourselves internally, and we should aspire to the same. We have an opportunity every day to have a positive, healthy perspective and to try hard and to do things well and to be light in people's lives. And often these things seem small and insignificant, but they're not. Those two people saved my life. My wife will have a husband and my kids a father because of small things that these people did. And there are members of this community who have messaged us to share their story of still being here because of the light that this community gave them, because of small things. Because the truth is that there are no small things. And people are amazing. Caring is amazing. Caring ourselves and caring about how cool it is that other people care should really be a bigger part of what we're about. And to bring this back to, I think we can translate all of these wandering observations to our space here too, if there's some application for my little speech to these hobbies that we engage in together, which I'm going to call cottage creative entertainment, board games, books, indie video games. We have the opportunity to care more in these things than we do right now. For those of us who create as creators, and for all of us as community members, we can care more about how and why we do what we do in all this, and we can care more constructively about how and why other people are doing what they do. It's sad to me that people comment on these industries as though they're holding big corporations in check. There's some drive that we have to police these little creative teams, that the conversations in the social space and with our friends carry certain presumptions that there's some level of greed going on or a lack of good intention, or that everyone's out to get us with schemes. And it strikes me mostly that we just have a way of justifying our instincts towards negativity. And listen, in the board game space especially, but in any of these little creative bubbles, these are teams of 1, 5, maybe 10 people. Think you and your few closest friends, or you and your siblings, giving every ounce of your time and passion into making a thing. And making things is hard. Few, if any, people are making things to share with you who don't care deeply about what they're doing. The people who work in this building, for example, other than select members of my family, of course, these are my best friends. And we work long and hard every day because we believe in what we're doing. We believe in the why and the how. And there's not a single strategy session we've had here that I would be ashamed for the world to see. I mean, except maybe some venti ones, but those aren't really strategy sessions. And even those discussions probably wouldn't make you think less of us. Anyway, I know what goes into making things here, and I believe that it is the same for dang near everyone making things at this level. And I look around at all these people making things, at all the other companies in this space making things, people who wake up every day and care, and I think I should care more that they care. That should mean more to me. Even if the thing people make is objectively bad, its existence in a way, or at least the intention behind it, is good. Those creators want, with all their hearts, for the thing they sacrificed years worth of weekends to create to be great. And we should celebrate that with more energy than we put into critiquing it. And I'm not saying that there should never be any critiquing that happens. I'm saying that you can rest assured that the rest of humanity has that covered. Trust me, you should see our inboxes. People actually cry. If the thing isn't perfect, creators don't need us to pile on and be the 1,000th person to tell them that. Also, these are people with the motivation and drive to actually make something. I assure you, they're already challenging themselves to be better. They don't need whatever thing we're weirdly motivated to do to hold them accountable. Can some people go farther than they're going right now and try harder and make better things? Certainly. But let's stop thinking of it as our job to call people out when we think that. Let's trust them to make that transition on their own, and put our energy into celebrating the people who are already doing those things. We want the world to be a better place, so let's shine a light on the things that we want to see more of, instead of wasting our focus tearing down the things that we don't. For us here in this building at Orange Nebula, we are in a place where we say, you would have to kill us to keep us from making things the way that we want them to be. We have an unattainable standard for ourselves. We will never meet it. We don't meet it. But the world and the things in it aren't what we want them to be. Pop culture products are not what we want them to be. So we're trying to make those changes ourselves as much as we can. And that's what I truly believe this world needs. It needs more people willing to step up and bring light and warmth and peace and positive, constructive passion to the conversation, to care and not just condemn. Caring disguised as condemnation is not caring. Or condemnation disguised as caring is not caring. But to care, to bring passion and commitment to making ourselves as excellent as we can be, should be the goal. The world doesn't need us trying to demand that others be more excellent. There are plenty of people telling it like it is, or demanding more, or holding people accountable, or however we try to justify our base instinct to tear things down in an effort to prove to ourselves mostly, I think, how smart we are. Let's hold ourselves to a higher standard and celebrate those who are doing the same, and let the rest fall to the wayside, because frankly, the rest is not worth our time. Let's just, when it comes to matters of hobbies and entertainment and pop culture and these what can be frivolous things, let's spend less time trying to be right and more time being light. Your soul deserves it. The people around you deserve it. Even if they don't deserve it, you're wrong about that. They do deserve it. This sets up a kind of transition to my other big takeaway from these last few weeks, which may seem ironic because I'm getting worked up now. But it's something that I think we all already know, but perhaps don't always act in accordance with, which is that a lot of what we concern ourselves with every day really doesn't matter. Life, the world tries to be loud at us. And since we found out that the time had come for my surgery, life, or my perspective, I guess, did this sort of telescoping thing, and much of the world sort of fell away. Things clarified and became simpler and became quiet, I guess. I swear the sound of the world changed. And almost like I was going to pass out, but never fully did. And the world tries to make itself so loud, so important, but life can be simpler. And that's standing out to me really clearly right now. And I think we each know what our priorities are. We have a pretty short list of what really matters to us, the things that we want to be defined by, what we're trying to become, who we want to be. Who can you be, by the way, is the sacred concept for Spirit Fire. But I digress. If we're lucky, I think some of us even know what we want to do with our time. But all of us basically know what we want to bring into the world. But so often these priorities are buried under a bunch of other. And all that stuff has fallen away for me the past few weeks, and I feel like I'm seeing what life is actually supposed to look like, if that makes sense. And we always say or hear or think, I should disconnect a bit or slow down or rest more or be more about what matters. And these phrases are tired and trite sounding to us because we have to say them so often because we don't do them, but they're true. And right now, I am, at least more than normal, doing these things. And I hope very much to come out the other side of this experience with those perspectives, a more permanent fixture of who I am, that my spirit, my life will feel more still, more calm. And I want to spend my years doing what I should be doing and not letting the noise break through. And the lesson I'm learning, and I guess now sharing, is that I want to be done frittering away my energy on petty, empty things. And I want to be done convincing myself that I'm fighting meaningful fights or doing meaningful things, but what I'm really doing is reducing worthy subjects into something petty and then engaging with them in a petty way, i.e., debating anything ever on the internet or 3/4 of the reading I do on the internet. And I want to be at peace and let my actions flow out of that in a way that will naturally be more impactful and more meaningful. And I think that's something available to every one of us all the time. And we need to embrace that truth more. I feel myself scowling for some reason. I don't feel scowly. It's the lights. I think there's a little voice inside us that points pretty clearly at the path to a simpler, calmer, better life. And I want to start actually listening to it. And I guess what I'm saying is a bit of encouragement for you to do the same if you have that same voice. You don't even have to have a defective heart or anything. Though if you do, it kind of helps. But I don't know that I can recommend it. All right. Speaking of which, let's talk about this heart thing. I'll do the grizzly bits last, in case you're a no grizzly bits person. The first thing is, what is going to be my experience? Well, I will go to the hospital at 5 a.m. on August 23rd, at which point the grizzly bits will commence. They will be followed by more grizzly bits, and then the grisliest bits. Ultimately, I will be in the hospital undergoing this for about 4 days, and then when the grisliness is deemed sufficient, I will go home. When you're going to undergo something like this, they give you a massive stack of documents for you to read through so that you know what to expect. Mine are in a binder with a friendly, colorful cover that says open heart surgery. I forgot that at home, so I grabbed this stack of papers as a prop because in my head I was all geared up to have the binder for this part, so just pretend. It's okay. This is mostly for me. But to give a vague idea of what I should expect this experience after coming home to be, there is a bulleted list at one point that indicates activities you will have difficulty doing after the surgery. On this list are such winners as retrieving things from your pockets. And that's really my favorite one. And this was all just a setup to share that, which I think is hilarious. Others include opening the refrigerator and, yes, retrieving things from the refrigerator and closing the refrigerator. So that's where I'll be at. We've had to buy lots of weird contraptions so that I can use the shower and the toilet and the house in general without using my arms and doing anything that puts any pressure on my sternum. And it'll be a solid 8 weeks or so in which I do basically nothing other than focus on recovering as safely as I can. And according to the binder, having lots of emotions. So it's going to force me to do some of the things I just talked about, disconnecting from the noise, and hopefully it will be good for me and I'll come out the other side a better man. So the question I get asked the most is, are you afraid? Which always touches me because that's such a forward question for people to ask, but it feels like a question that cares. And I mean, yeah, sometimes. Anytime anyone goes into your body and removes a piece of your heart, there's a chance that you don't come back from that. So, I'm every emotion at once, to be honest. But I'm also, at this point, at peace. I've gone through, I guess, a sort of trajectory where at first my head went to this place where I would imagine the worst and would say, please, please let me live through this so I can be my kid's father. My kids are 5 and 7. So I can be my wife's husband, so I can be a brother, a son. I'm not done yet. And it was kind of a, this has the potential to be tragic perspective. And then I graduated to a more, things will be fine. This is just a hard thing that we have to get through, kind of. It was, I don't want to say detached, but it was a more neutral place that I was in for a bit. But now I'm in more of a place of gratitude. Now I'm thinking, how blessed am I that I'm going to get to be there, that I'm going to get to be my kid's father. If I was born at any other time in human history, or if that wild sprite woman hadn't heard a smidge of a murmur, my doctors all agree that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do anything past this year, probably. And I wouldn't get to grow old with the woman I love, or write the books I want to write, or do anything else that I want to do. So above all else, I'm grateful that this is happening. Because for me, the alternative was not good. And honestly, I think I'm going to be a better person because of it. I think I already am. And that doesn't mean I don't still have all those other feelings all the time too. But they're mostly drowned out by the power and truth of this newest perspective. So, anyways, okay. The grizzly stuff. Here's the deal. And if you don't want the grizzly stuff, I don't know, scrub for a minute. It won't be that bad. But on my aorta, which is this, so this is what's up with my heart. On my aorta, which is this hose bit that plugs into the top of the heart and then wraps around and heads down to the body to do aorta things. Where my aorta connects to the heart is a valve, and my valve is faulty and has been since birth, and it regurgitates and sloshes all the time when it pumps blood, which over time has caused the aorta and the areas of the ventricle that the aorta connects to dilate, to expand and thin out. And basically the valve is just beating the heck out of everything around it. And for a while, we just waited and watched it happen because cracking the sternum open and carving at those bits represented more danger than just doing nothing. But over time, more and more damage has been done to the portions of my aorta, and everything is now beat up enough. Technically, it's an aneurysm that just walking around with my heart as it is dangerous enough that the surgery is a smart move. So they're going to go in there, which is gross because there's a bunch of bone in the way, which is probably my least favorite part to think about. And they're going to go in there and they're going to remove a portion of the aorta, and they'll be replacing it with a new bit of artificial tubey hose business that looks kind of like fiberglass weave. And while they're at it, they're also going to replace that pesky valve. They're putting in a mechanical valve, which means I'll be on blood thinners the rest of my life. So that helps everything to flow nice and smoothly through there and not cause any problems. Blood thinners mean that I'll have to be careful not to suffer any major injuries because then I'll have a propensity to bleed out. So no more motorcycles or sword fights. And I'll have to be really consistent in my diet because the thinners have to be carefully calibrated. But other than that, I will be good as new. Well, in my case, better than new. After I recover, it'll be about 8 weeks before I can return to something like normal, driving, going back to the office, putting my blood pressure through the stress of re-engaging with the internet in any work sort of way. And then after about a year, my sternum is fully refused, and I'll just be one of those old guys that has scars that know when the weather is changing. And yeah, I guess that's about it. There's a bunch of hospital-related stuff about drainage tubes and catheters, but I'm going to spare myself and not talk about those. But it's really amazing what they can do. Anyways, we're heading into this thing with a sense of peace and gratitude, and I will see you in a few months when I come out the other side. If I have one piece of sadness, it's that I won't be around to share in the excitement when many of you first play Unsettled. We poured ourselves into that game, if I can just be candid. Truly. Like, Mark and I, we put in 15 to, at the end there, 20-hour days for a whole year. It was irresponsible, but we could not have cared more. And I hope deeply that you have an absolutely wonderful time with it. And if I work on anything during my time away, it will be the joyous task of making new planets. And I am sincerely excited to come back and share that weird joy with you. So if for some reason you want to email me, and I don't mean to say that in a weird tone, you're always welcome to email me. My email address is tom@orangenebula.com, and I'll see anything you send in, October or November. So much love. Keep being awesome.